All right, so our next speaker is Chung from Academia Sinica, Taiwan, and he's going to tell us about true randomness from minimal assumptions, and he is my twin brother in psychology.
Yeah, thanks, Yang. Also, thanks workshop to. Hello. Is it on now?
It's on. It is on. It's going to make it closer to you.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Okay. So thanks, Yang again. Also thanks the workshop to invite me here. It was really great to be here. So today I will talk about true randomness on the assumption, joint work with Yao Yun and Xiaobi. So this is about how to test certify uniform randomness under minimal assumption. So for those of you know more about this field, one sentence summary of the result is that we construct a device-independent randomness simplification protocol from arbitrary weak sources. Okay, so let me start with the brief motivation. So we all know that randomness is a brief. Is it good? No? Yes. Okay, so sorry about this. So we all know that the randomness is a precious resource. It's used in many fields, in particular in cryptography, and the randomized algorithm, also statistics, and even tabling. But the question is that randomness is also, high quality randomness is also hard to get. And in some scenarios, in particular for security scenarios, consequences can be serious. So even in the recent year, there's still some report from security research that there's this ISP, there's a very simple attack about ISP keys that exploit the insufficient randomness in the key generation. So the kind of a basic question to ask is, how can we certify randomness if possible? So like this comic show, like this question is in fact not so easy to answer. Since every sequence of outcome is possible, so how can you certify anything is possible or not? So, if you think about it a bit more, you really see that the answer is that we cannot be sure if we do not make any assumption about the randomness exists at the beginning. Because there's a possibility that we all live in a deterministic matrix board. And in this case, there's nothing we can find out that we are actually deterministic beings. So, kind of the right question to ask is, what are the minimal assumptions to certify uniform randomness? Okay, so this question, one important line to answer this question is by this seminal work of Kohlberg and Renner, where they propose this randomness amplification approach that uses quantum mechanics to certify randomness. So the basic idea here is that we want to certify truly random event from weak randomness by certifying Bell violation. So here is the slides, I think, that explain the idea to computer scientists. So I'll go through the basic idea quickly here. So imagine that we have this non-local game set up here. So we have referee and ask question to two non-local devices and get back the answer. And we have certain rule about whether this answer is wins the game or lose the game. So we know that so the classical value is the optimal strategy for the classical devices, and the quantum value is the optimal strategy for the quantum devices. And so Bell violation says that there exists some game like CHSH, where the quantum value can be significantly higher than the classical value. And with the additional observation that any optimal classical strategy can be made deterministic. This implies that any super classical behavior, in particular Bell violation, certifies randomness. So now the idea of callback random is to say that now let's use this weak, low quality source of randomness to generate input to these devices and to statistically test if there is a Bell violation. And when there is a Bell violation, it means that the output is random, and in some specific games, they can even close to uniform. So in the work of callback random, the weak random source is modeled as center-based source, which satisfies this condition here. So the condition simply says that each bit has certain uncertainty, even conditioning on the previous bit. So this is a very natural source of randomness, and the quality of the source is quantified by this parameter epsilon. So if epsilon is equal to 0, then this could be a deterministic source. But if epsilon is if epsilon is equal to a half, then this could be a deterministic source. If epsilon is equal to 0, then this is a uniform source. And callback random show that something non-trivial can be done. So we can amplify this weak source of randomness, this center-based source, for like epsilon that is less than 0.5 or 0.6. And furthermore, let's show this in a device-independent setting, which is mentioned in the previous talk. So it means that we do not put any trust on the device. And this is important for like crypto applications, where one way to think about it is that this device is prepared by some adversary if, and we want the output to be close to uniform to this particular adversary if. So to give you a picture about how this callback random protocol works at high level, so let's consider we have this Alice who tries to certify randomness, and we have this if. So this adversary if produces two devices, and send this two devices to the user, Alice. And Alice make sure that these two devices are non-local, and prepare a center-based running source. Now she uses this center-based running source as input to test to these two devices, and then ask the device to answer to play the non-local game. So she used this as resource to do multiple tests to get a statistical inference about the quality of the device. And then she do natural things. So she accepts if the device plays well enough, it statistically shows Bell violation. And then she output a random game run, the output of a random game run as the output. And callback random show that by choosing this game, a carefully designed non-local game with chain Bell violation, this strategy works, as long as this SV source has small enough bias. And furthermore, callback random argued there's another very nice application of this randomness amplification to a dichotomy theorem about our physical world. So the question here is that can we certify our physical world, our physical law is random or not? So very similar to the other direction. Very similar to the earlier example, if our physical world is fully deterministic, then again, nothing we can do here. So the second best thing we can show is a dichotomy theorem says that either our world is deterministic, or as long as weak randomness exists, we can have a reliable way, a provable way to certify pure randomness. And so device-independent randomness amplification protocol now is a way to show such a dichotomy theorem. So as long as the world is not deterministic, then we get weak randomness, and through this DIRA protocol, we can certify uniform randomness. And in this scenario, if models this external observer that try to predict the outcome of this certified randomness. And one important thing here in this physics interpretation is that will require much stronger security guarantee. Here we should not assume that if is restricted to a quantum adversary. Because if we assume that if the information, if correct, is limited to quantum, then the quantum law itself implies truly uniform randomness exists. So instead, we should only assume that if and the device can share no signal correlation. So only assume that the no signal non-local property is guaranteed. And they will argue that this is necessary. So now we should model our adversary if as a no-signaling adversary that may share non-trivial no-signaling correlation with the device. And we want that at the end, as long as we accept, the output should be close to uniform given this adversary. And not only that we want to put this no-signaling security condition, we also want to weaken the setting, the assumption of our setting, our model as much as possible. Since the weaker the assumption is R, the stronger or the more general this dichotomic theorem is. So let's go through the kind of the existing works to see how and what the assumptions were assumed in the previous work. So first thing to consider is about if information. So in the original work of Kohlberg-Renner, they model if as holding a classical information W. That models all the information that if can collect before this protocol start. However, this is a little bit more restrictive. Since a more general if can actually also hold a no-signaling device that can share no-signaling correlation with the device used by Alice. And in particular, if can also put some input and then collect some no-signaling correlated output from this device. And this would capture this no-signaling correlation in full generality. And it's also done by follow-up work of TYQI2016 and so on. And another subtle issue is about the relation between source device and the if. So in most of previous work, there are implicit conditional independence assumption that's imposed. So in Kohlberg-Renner, they assume that after we condition if the information W, this classical information W, source and device are independent. And also in the follow-up work of Brando et al. And Vanata et al., they also assume that the condition W equal to W, the source is independent of both the box of the device and the box of if. And in another work of Gallego et al., they slightly weaken this assumption, so they only need to assume source is independent of the device, but can share correlation with it. But the point here is that such independence assumption, in our view, is a strong assumption. Since independence is not testable and cannot be guaranteed by physical laws. So the question is whether this independence assumption can be removed. And another dimension to consider is the structure of the source. So in all the previous work, they model this source as a center-arbitrary source, which is highly structured in the sense that every bit has entropy condition on previous bit. So this is this structural assumption is very well motivated from physics consideration, but I think in one sense this is not very robust. For example, we model this source as a center-arbitrary bit, means that every bit has uncertainty. But it could be that an equally valid model that this uncertainty only exists for a large block. And the SV block is actually a weaker model than SV bits. And it's not clear whether this randomness amplification protocol works when we only have SV block instead of SV bits. So a more general or a more general assumption, or to minimize the assumption, is to remove this structural condition. So in particular, one way to model it is to only assume the source has some certain uncertainty against the device, so that you can use to test it, and this can be modeled as a mean entropy. So this operationally just says that given the device, it's not possible to predict the source correctly with certain bounded probability. Okay. So after go through this, I want to say that here is maybe an ideal version of dichotomy theorem. So as we said, we use random simplification to prove dichotomy theorem. So we want the random simplification protocol to have as minimal assumption as possible. So first, we require this source condition of device has sufficient entropy. This is necessary since without the entropy, it's very easy to fool by the device. And second, we require this no sequence condition between if and among the devices. Then this is necessary, otherwise the output can be directly signaled to if. And other than these two assumptions, we do not assume any structure and any independence assumption between source, if, and the device. And so I think this setting is a setting that is a device-independent setting with minimal assumption for random simplification. And so under this minimal assumption, we can get the most general form of dichotomy theorem. So weak source, so it just means that as long as non-deterministic work has a weak source with sufficient entropy, then you can certify uniform randomness. So the short way to say it is that as long as there is sufficient uncertainty in our work, then there is certifiable true randomness in our work. So just to summarize the discussion and also put all the literature in the table. So in our previous work, we work with the same model, but we only obtain this content security. It means that we restrict if to obey this content rule. So this does not quite get this dichotomy theorem interpretation, but it's also could be useful for generating randomness as long as you assume our word is content. And there's another work by TYQI2016. They also try to model correlation between the source and device, but their result restrict to SV source with a very small bias, and also they need to put additional assumption on the source and on the ifs behavior. So in this work, we relax all the possible assumptions. So we allow the source to have arbitrary weak source, and if can be non-sigmoidally correlated with the device, and we do not assume any correlation between source, if, and device. Do not restrict any independence. So in the first like 5-7 minutes, I want to show you at high level about intuition about our construction. So let's first review all the existing protocol. So all the existing protocol work in this way. So they directly use the source bit, part of the source bit, as input to the device. So they take the source and put part of the bit interpret part of the bit as input and fit into the device. And this kind of more direct approach is the reason that they require SV structure, because they require every bit has certain entropy to use to test the device. And also that's the reason that they need to work with the sophisticated local game, so that they can get guarantee even if the source is low quality. And so as computer scientists, and it's easy to see that this kind of restriction is impossible to handle unstructured weak source, simply because unstructured source can have any subset of it to be deterministic, and you'll be easily fooled at least in this subset. And even worse, you don't know where is this subset. So we take a different approach. So as computer scientists, we used to design protocol in a composition way. So we take the approach where we first preprocess our source to improve the quality. So we convert our source into a somewhere close to uniform source, but those block sources, each block of sources can be correlated. And now we use this device-independent randomness amplification protocol for this somewhere uniform source. And assuming they accept, you get some output, and then you XOR all of them, and to get your final output. Now the intuition here is that you do not use this device-independent randomness amplification protocol as it is, but instead you use it as a decoupler. So this decoupler decouples correlations between the sources. So here we have sources that are already somewhere uniform. The output is also somewhere uniform. But the thing is that these sources may have a strong correlation. So if you XOR them, you may get a deterministic bit. But after you pass through this device-independent randomness amplification protocol, after you certify it, this randomness will be rendered, will be close to uniform even given the rest of the copies. So when you, some of Zi will be uniform to all. So when you XOR them, you will get a uniform output. So to carry through this plan, we make two observations. So first, in the preprocess, we need to have a way to convert this weak source, unstructured source, to a somewhere almost uniform to device source. So it needs to be uniform at least to the device in order to be useful. And in the decoupled step, we need this device-independent randomness amplification protocol for almost uniform sources. So almost the uniformity makes the problem simpler, but you need to take into account the error. And here, an important thing here is that we cannot assume a stronger condition that the source is uniform to device together with if. This will not be sufficient for decoupling. So we need to work with a weaker assumption that this source is only uniform to the device, but not to the external if. And also here in the preprocessing step, this converter cannot give you a perfect randomness. So in the second step here, we really need to deal with this almost uniformity, this error. I want to mention that in our previous protocol, this content secure protocol, we follow the same, we also take the same framework. But to get the non-sequence security turns out to be much trickier than we thought, and we need to develop totally different ways of argument to reason about non-sequence security. And this is what I want to say a little bit in the next few slides. So in the quantum security, in the first step, we can simply use quantum-proof strong seeded extractor. And each block will be just take the extractor on the source X and with a different seed R. So you go over all the possible seed and then you get all the possible blocks. And in the decoupling step, the tricky part is to handle almost uniformity, to handle the error. And this will be easy if we have a stronger guarantee that our source is almost uniform to device together with it. Because we can now use a triangle inequality or union bound to show that this small error also causes small error in the output. But when we only have uniform to device source, this uniform to device is only a local distance guarantee. And it does not imply that we get at the end get a global guarantee that our output is close to uniform to if. In the content setting, this can be done. This problem can be resolved generically by bridging the local global distance by a fidelity argument. However, impose these two steps, which can be done rather generically in the content setting, breaks down in the non-sequencing setting. So for the first step, the reason is simply that this non-sequencing proof strong randomness extractor, when you define it properly, it simply doesn't exist. And for the second step, there simply does not have this fidelity, this content structure for you to reason about local and global distance. So I don't have time to tell you how we actually deal with it, but just try to say one sentence for each problem. So here we observe that this content proof or non-sequence proof seeded extractor turns out to be an overkill. And we can actually use this strong randomness, classical strong randomness extractor and still show it works. But it works with a weaker guarantee. So for the quantum case, we can guarantee this source is somewhere uniform to all the devices. And this turns out to be impossible in the no-sequencing case. But here, we show that here, what we actually need is that we need this source to be uniform to the corresponding device that is used to run the device-independent protocol. So by relaxing this condition to only require it to uniform to the corresponding device, you get security. And just a minute. Okay, so I'm running out of time. So for the decoupling step, just to two sentences. So here we need to look into the property of the analysis of the TI protocol in the perfect uniform case, and we show this. We use reduction technique from cryptography to show that this key property remains holds, even with almost uniform C. Okay, so this is just a summary. So our result is a randomness simplification protocol on the minimal assumption, in particular without any structure and independence assumption. I think the most interesting application is to get an ideal version of the economy theory, such that sufficient uncertainty implies certifiable randomness. And quantitatively, we require source to have polynomial epsilon bits of entropy to certify uniform fit up to epsilon distance. And just one comment that I think by combining technique from content community and crypto or computer science community, we can have a larger space of design, and this could be useful also for maybe for other things. And I will end with an advertisement. So AQIS in the summer will be held in Taiwan. So the date is here, and it's in my institute, and I look forward to see many of you here.
Thank you, Brian. So the next speaker, could you please start setting up, and while we take questions. Any question for Kai-Ming? Chung?
Can you comment on the rate of randomness? Can you comment on the rate of the randomness that you consider to understand?
So I think it's in the final statement. So we need a polynomial epsilon network of randomness to certify one bit that is epsilon close uniform, and you can do this for every chunk. So you go linearly for that.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you, Kai-Ming.